The big question now is, could Assange be extradited to the United States? And for more on this, we are joined by Floyd Abrams. He is a constitutional law expert, and he's senior counsel at the law firm Cahill, Gordon and Reindel. And Floyd, I want to ask you, how likely is it that Assange could be extradited to the United States if he leaves the embassy?
Well, I think it would be difficult for the U.S. representatives to persuade the English courts that Mr. Assange should be extradited here. I mean, we do have, of course, very close relationships with England, but that would be hotly litigated there. And I think we'd have to make a very substantial showing of need to do so, and that this was, by its nature, a criminal proceeding, which is what it would be here, but he would claim it is essentially political in nature. If he could persuade the English courts of that, which is something that he had previously failed to persuade them of when the issue came up of being extradited to Sweden. But my short answer is that I think it would be hard for the U.S. to obtain legal process which is effective in nature and which would result in him being sent here.
So you say that it would be hard, but it still could happen. So if that does happen, what sort of charges might he face here in the United States? And what kind of case would the government put together against him?
Well, he could be charged under the espionage law. We have a 100-year-old espionage law, very vague, very unclear, never used against a journalist. One of the issues would be whether he would be viewed as a journalist or as someone, for example, who had himself been involved in some way in obtaining stolen property. But the closer that he can hew to the journalistic mode, the better his chances would be. And the more likely it is that he would have substantial support from the American journalistic community, which may disapprove, as I would assume most of them do, to his behavior and that which he has chosen to release to the world on a number of occasions, but would still be very concerned at the establishment of a precedent here that somebody who basically has obtained information, not paying for it, if that's true, and made it available to the public, could be charged with espionage. That would be a reach, and it could threaten a lot of other American journalists who would be very concerned about that, not just for themselves, but for the ability of our public to become informed.
So you are a renowned constitutional law expert. In terms of the First Amendment, what do you think? Does he have a case here?
I think he has a serious First Amendment defense. It's a defense that some of us, including myself, who have been very critical of him, have to think twice and three times about to make sure that that is so. But excuse me, but it is my view that he has a strong First Amendment position to the extent that what the government is saying is nothing more or less that he obtained this information and made it available to the public. That it's one thing to say that government employees can be jailed or former government employees can be jailed for that. It's quite something else for someone who does it for the purpose of revealing it to the American public.
So, in your opinion, you talked about the critics. Should he be facing penalties?
I don't think he should be facing legal penalties in the United States. I think he should be criticized. I don't think he cares about that, but I don't think he should be facing legal penalties unless a lot more comes out about him, how he obtained the information. I mean, if they accuse him of stealing it in some way, paying money or things like that, which could make the situation outside the norm of journalistic behavior, that might be something else. But if the core of what happened here is that a disaffected employee or former employee of the government made the documents available to him, and he published them, whether or not I agree or others agree with his decision to publish it, at the end of the day, it is a journalistic decision. And I think that a very strong case can be mounted for him for the proposition that our ancient Espionage Act simply does not apply to that.
Floyd Abrams, it will certainly be interesting to see what happens. Thank you for joining us.